Natalie Portman talks about her version of the God of Thunder, and it'll be quite different than the comics. Let's talk about it. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to Comic Book Nostalgia. I'm CB Nostalgia, and we got a little update from Natalie Portman on Thor: Love and Thunder. But first, I wanted to remind everybody, make sure you keep developing that super you. We're giving away a 60-day free trial of Skillshare. There's a link in the description below. Get out there and develop all the superhero skills you always wanted. Well, we've known for quite a while now that Natalie Portman's Jane Foster will take up the power of Thor in the upcoming sequel, Thor: Love and Thunder. Now, apparently, this storyline will not play out like the 2018 comic run, at least according to Natalie Portman. Now, it was recently teased by Natalie Portman that the new movie is going to be really silly, funny, and great. But now she's talked a little bit about the film, and it does sound like it's quite a departure from the 2018 Jason Aaron run in the comics. Now, she recently made an appearance on the Kelly Clarkson Show, and talked a little bit about the upcoming film and her character. This is what she had to say. So, she does have powers. It's not exactly the same as Thor. It's her own version of it, and she's called the Mighty Thor. Now, if you're pretty familiar with the comic run, Jane Foster gains her powers, but they're pretty much the same as Thor's in the comics. This happens after Thor becomes unworthy to wield his hammer, and she takes up Mjolnir and becomes the iconic hero. This statement from Portman kind of indicates to me that Taika Waititi might be taking this in a different direction. Now, this isn't the only time Jane Foster has had some pretty cool powers in the comics. There was a point in time where in the What If series she took up the hammer of Thor and became the God of Thunder. But in 1975, under Jerry Conway, there was a fairly unknown story that saw her take up the powers of Sif. In the story, an entity known as Fear tricks Jane Foster into a suicide attempt. And while knocking on death's door, Sif actually chooses to sacrifice her life to save the love of the man she loves, which would take the story in a completely different direction. Now, Jamie Alexander played Sif in the first two films, and she also made an appearance on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but she hasn't been seen in the Asgardian role for several years. I've actually heard no news that she is returning to the role, so I'm fairly unsure of this path, but it doesn't mean she couldn't be infused with some other force, including the Odin Force or even the life force of Thor himself. Now, another possibility is that Natalie Portman will become the new version of Valkyrie. If you're following this in the comics, that's exactly what's happened, and it's been met with a lot of fan approval. In this version, she does gain a lot of Valkyrie's old powers, plus a golden mace, a chain, and some wings. The character is pretty cool, and visually, at least how she's drawn in the comics, she really does remind me of Natalie Portman. Now, Natalie Portman is currently in Sydney, Australia, and I'm assuming preparing to shoot Thor: Love and Thunder with the rest of the crew. The movie is set to hit theaters on February 11th, 2022, so we have a really long time before we'll get to sit down and see the movie. If I'm being quite honest, I really do think Taika Waititi and the team over at Marvel Studios will make some variation or possibly combination of this story from previous comic lines. If you notice, most Marvel stories based on direct comics are mostly in name only, and really only slightly resemble the original story. I have the sneaking suspicion the Mighty Thor and that Valkyrie series, as well as many of the other shakes and moves going on in the Marvel Universe, will all come together in this film to give us something cohesive but leave most of what we like intact. One of the key things to consider in this overall equation is Natalie Portman and the number of films she signed for. Clearly a one-film deal means the story arc for her returning character will be very short. If she signed a multiple film deal, or even a big deal like 6 or 7 films, that means her version of the Mighty Thor is likely to stick around for a really long time. So what do you guys think? Does this make you more excited for Thor: Love and Thunder or less? And do you think Natalie Portman signed a multi-film deal and will evolve into a new version of Thor or Valkyrie? Sound off in the comments below. If you like this video, make sure you press like, click subscribe, and if you don't ring that bell, you won't get any updates. Peace.